For nearly a decade, one man remained the most wanted person on the planet, Osama bin Laden. As the founder and leader of the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, he was the mastermind behind the horrific attacks on September 11, 2001, which changed the world forever. After those attacks, bin Laden vanished, becoming a ghost who haunted the global stage. The United States government and its allies launched a massive worldwide manhunt, determined to bring him to justice for his crimes. Finding him, however, proved to be an incredibly difficult and frustrating task that would span 2 presidencies and involve countless hours of intelligence work by spies and analysts across the globe. The search was a puzzle with millions of pieces but no picture on the box. Intelligence agencies chased down every possible lead, from rumors in remote villages to complex financial trails. Bin Laden was an expert at hiding, using no modern technology like phones or the internet that could be traced. He relied on a small, trusted circle of couriers to pass messages to the outside world. This old-fashioned method made him nearly invisible in a digital age. For years, the trail went cold and many began to wonder if he would ever be found. The mountains between Afghanistan and Pakistan seemed to have swallowed him whole, leaving a void filled only by speculation and the occasional grainy video message he would release to the world. The breakthrough finally came not from a high-tech satellite or a secret agent, but from painstakingly following one of these trusted couriers. After years of work, the CIA identified a man named Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti as one of bin Laden's most important messengers. They tracked his movements for months, a slow and patient process that required immense dedication. This trail eventually led them not to a cave in the mountains but to a large, unusual compound in a quiet suburban city called Abbottabad in Pakistan. The property was an anomaly, with towering 18-foot walls topped with barbed wire, no phone or internet lines, and residents who burned their trash instead of having it collected. This compound was the biggest lead in almost 10 years. CIA analysts spent months watching it, using satellites and local intelligence sources to gather every scrap of information they could. They observed a tall, mysterious figure who would pace back and forth in the courtyard for exercise but never left the compound walls. They nicknamed him the Pacer. While they could never get a clear photograph to confirm his identity, all the circumstantial evidence pointed to one incredible possibility. The world's most wanted man was hiding in plain sight, not in a remote cave, but in a city just miles from Pakistan's top military academy. The intelligence was strong, but it was not 100% certain. With a potential location identified, the immense challenge shifted from finding bin Laden to deciding what to do about it. The stakes were astronomical. President Barack Obama and his national security team debated several options, each filled with enormous risk. One idea was to launch a massive airstrike with a B-2 stealth bomber to level the entire compound. However, this would leave no definitive proof of bin Laden's death, and would likely cause significant collateral damage, killing the women and children also living there. Another option was a joint operation with Pakistani forces, but the risk of bin Laden being tipped off was considered far too high. The secrecy of the mission was paramount to its success. Ultimately, the president chose the riskiest and most precise option, a surgical raid by an elite team of U.S. Navy SEALs. The mission was codenamed Operation Neptune Spear. This would be a clandestine operation, conducted without the knowledge of the Pakistani government, deep inside their territory. The plan called for a small team of commandos to fly from a base in Afghanistan, cross into Pakistan under the cover of darkness, assault the compound, capture or kill bin Laden, gather any intelligence they could find, and get out before anyone knew they were there. It was a plan straight out of a movie, but the dangers were very real. If anything went wrong, the SEALs could be captured or killed, leading to an international crisis. The team chosen for this historic mission was SEAL Team 6, officially known as the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were among the most highly trained and experienced special operators in the entire U.S. military. The assault force consisted of about 24 SEALs, accompanied by a Belgian Malinois military dog named Cairo. To get them to the target, the military would use 2 specially modified Black Hawk helicopters. These were not standard-issue aircraft. They were equipped with advanced stealth technology designed to make them quieter and nearly invisible to Pakistani radar, a crucial element for sneaking into the country undetected. On April 29, 2011, after weeks of deliberation and with some of his top advisors still uncertain about the intelligence, President Obama gave the final go order. The team assembled in Afghanistan, making their final preparations and rehearsing the assault on a full-scale replica of the compound. They knew every door, every window, and every wall. Despite the intense training, the risks remained immense. The intelligence was still not 100% confirmed, the flight into Pakistan was perilous, and the assault on a fortified building full of unknown defenders was incredibly dangerous. The fate of the mission, and a major chapter in global history, rested on the shoulders of this small group of warriors. On the night of May 1, 2011, as President Obama and his team watched from the White House Situation Room via a live drone feed, Operation Neptune Spear launched. The two stealth Black Hawks lifted off from their base in Afghanistan and flew low and fast into Pakistani airspace. For over 90 minutes they navigated the darkness, successfully avoiding detection. As they approached the Abbottabad compound, however, disaster nearly struck. Higher than expected air temperatures caused one of the helicopters to enter a dangerous aerodynamic state known as a vortex ring state, making it lose lift. The pilot fought for control, but the helicopter's tail clipped one of the high compound walls, forcing a crash landing inside the yard. The crash was loud and violent, but miraculously, no one was seriously injured. The pilot's incredible skill prevented a catastrophic rollover. The well-rehearsed SEALs immediately exited the downed aircraft and adapted their plan. The second helicopter, instead of hovering over the roof as planned, landed safely outside the compound walls. The raid was on, and the element of surprise was partially lost. The team outside used explosives to breach the outer walls, while the team from the crashed helicopter began clearing the smaller buildings in the courtyard. Inside the first guest house, they encountered and killed bin Laden's trusted courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, who was armed and ready to fight. Pushing into the main three-story building, the SEALs moved methodically from room to room, clearing each floor in the darkness. They encountered more resistance, including the courier's brother and one of bin Laden's adult sons, both of whom were killed in brief but intense exchanges of fire. As the team ascended the narrow staircase to the third and final floor, they knew they were getting close to their primary target. This was the floor where the pacer was believed to live with his family. The tension was at its absolute peak as they prepared to breach the final set of rooms, unsure of what or who they would find waiting for them on the other side. On the top floor, a tall figure peeked out from a bedroom doorway. A SEAL fired, wounding him. The man retreated into the dark room. The SEALs stormed in, finding the man and several women. The accounts from the SEALs who were in the room differ on the exact sequence of events, but the outcome was the same. According to one version, the wounded man was on the floor and shot again when he moved. According to another, he was standing and used a woman as a shield before being shot twice in the head. In that chaotic moment, the nearly 10-year hunt was over. The man was Osama bin Laden. A SEAL got on the radio and spoke the historic code phrase for God and country, Geronimo, Geronimo, Geronimo. The call Geronimo confirmed to the White House that Osama bin Laden had been killed in action. But the mission was far from over. The team was still deep in hostile territory. The entire firefight had lasted less than 15 minutes, and now the SEALs had a new objective: gather as much intelligence as possible and get out safely. For the next 20 minutes they worked quickly, stuffing laptops, hard drives, thumb drives, and documents into bags. This collection of intelligence would prove to be a treasure trove, providing invaluable insight into Al-Qaeda's operations. They also used a kit to take DNA samples from bin Laden's body to confirm his identity beyond any doubt. With the intelligence secured and bin Laden's body recovered, the team prepared for extraction. The crashed stealth helicopter was a major problem. It could not be flown out, and leaving it behind would mean its top-secret technology would fall into foreign hands. The SEALs planted explosives throughout the crippled aircraft and, just before leaving, detonated them, destroying the evidence of their classified technology in a fiery blast. A backup Chinook helicopter, which had been waiting nearby, was called in to pick up the remaining SEALs from the crashed aircraft, along with bin Laden's body. At approximately 4:08 a.m. local time, all U.S. personnel were airborne and heading back to Afghanistan. The flight back was tense, but they landed safely at Bagram Airfield just before 6 o'clock a.m. In the White House, there was a palpable sense of relief. Once the body was visually identified and the DNA results came back as a match, the news was official. That evening, President Obama addressed the nation and the world in a televised speech. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children, he announced. The news spread like wildfire, and spontaneous celebrations erupted across the United States. The final step was to decide what to do with bin Laden's remains. The US government wanted to avoid creating a land grave that could become a shrine for his followers. After confirming that no country, including his native Saudi Arabia, would accept the body, the decision was made for a burial at sea. His body was flown to the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson in the North Arabian Sea. There, it was washed and wrapped in a white sheet in accordance with Islamic tradition. Placed in a weighted bag, the body of Osama bin Laden was respectfully slipped into the ocean, bringing a final, definitive end to the man who had cast such a long and dark shadow over the world.